What's up guys, you're watching Degreeless Engineering, a channel where we engineer using experience. This week we're talking about old, outdated, dilapidated interior automotive plastic. It never fails. You've got an awesome build, but the plastic leaves a bit to be desired. Why does it happen? Well, the constant pounding of UV rays hitting those polymers slowly but surely break the plastic down. What can we do about it? Well, we can get on Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, eBay, or even some old forums. Those are all great options. There's even some guys out there making some reproductions on certain parts. That's a great option as well. But me personally, I've got a 1989 4Runner with some problems of its own. I've got one part in mind that I want to do some work to, and I've got some 3D printers sitting upstairs collecting dust. So let's see if we can utilize those to make this part look a little bit better. Let's check it out. So once you've got the part that you want to measure, grab yourself a pen and paper. Sometimes I'll use my phone and my stylus and a tape measure. This is what I would use to measure something like this. Doesn't need to be too crazy, but right away I kind of notice what I would like to do with it, rather than try to match all these radiuses and chamfers and angles. I'm just going to do a simple square or trapezoidal grate that goes right over top of this opening here and has a little backing plate to fasten into. Probably some heat set inserts and some countersunk screws, and do some sort of exposed honeycomb infill, maybe with a logo in the middle. Just really jazz it up. Now I notice that this length from here to here differs from this length in this corner pocket to this length to this corner pocket here. But this distance from this edge here to this edge here stay pretty consistent all the way down. So my first measurement, and I'll burn an inch here, try to get as close to this little corner radius as I can. And I would say that's probably going to be 10 5/8. So I'll come over here with my paper, draw up like just an aggressively exaggerated version of what's there. So 10 5/8. And then down here, it's like 2 5/8. So just draw a line, 2 5/8. And then I'm going to try my best. Okay. Man, that little corner pocket's kind of tricky. I'll make sure I don't leave too much room. Let's say 10 5/16. That bottom side. 10 5/16. So now that I have my dimensions, I can take this, drop it into Fusion 360, and just kind of work from there.
So I've got the drawings done, and one thing you'll notice about this grate is there's no mesh, but I will be using this modifier to create the mesh in Prusa Slicer, and I'll go into detail on that. And of course, we've got the backing plate where the threaded inserts will be installed to tie everything together.
So once you've reached a point in your drawing where you feel pretty good about it, but you want to make sure it fits just right, a good option would be a paper template. Now this is something you can do through Fusion 360 using the drawing feature. You just place the drawing one-to-one, print it out, cut it out with a pair of scissors, and place it on the part to make sure it fits. Now, not everybody has a printer, and not everybody can do the drawing feature. So another good option would be to print out maybe the first few layers of the print on your 3D printer and lay it down. Both of these options are great for minimizing the amount of waste that you generate with your 3D printer, so you're not throwing away a bunch of plastic. So once I've finished my paper template, I'll place it in the part and justify it to one side. And what that does is it gives me a more pronounced look at what kind of changes I need to make. And it looks to be that gap is about a 1/16 of an inch. Don't want to go too far beyond that and risk the part climbing up on those radiuses. So to do that, I'll go back to my drawing, remove the radiuses, and offset each face on each side 1/32 of an inch. From there, I will take it and drop it in a Prusa slicer and start making some adjustments to some modifiers.
So let's talk about modifiers. This is the modifier I made. I'm going to show you how I made it and what it's for. First, I took the original part drawing and extruded out the exterior frame as well as the letters, and all I was left with is the centerpiece, that center face. So I would take that, save it as its own file, which I did as modifier. My next step would be to export it as an STL. It needs to be an STL file. So I'd hit export. Of course, it's asking me to do it again. Yes. Now we have that in our folder. So then we would go to our slicer. So we've got our original part in the slicer. The next thing to do would be to right click, go down to modifier, click load. We're going to find our modifier, it's right here, select that. And the cool thing is, as soon as you open it, it drops it right where it needs to be. Barely tell anything changed. You can tell that little green kind of glitchy looking area, that's exactly where the modifier is. So in doing this, we put the actual modification exactly where we need it and none of it where we don't want it. So once we get our settings over here, we'll right click that, go to layers and perimeters for that. So that's the modifier right here. Right click, layers, perimeters. And we're going to take our bottom layers, bring it to 0, and our top layers, bring it to 0. We won't mess with the perimeters yet, and I'll show you why. Slice it, and look at that. If you look at the bottom, we got solid plastic everywhere where we want it and nowhere we don't. So our next move would be to try to get rid of this. You can see that, but we have that infill that's exposed. And there's a couple of things that kind of, it gets a little weird. If I slice this now, there might be like a ton of perimeters all of a sudden. Yeah, see, it went from, not having any to all of a sudden I've got 4, which is kind of annoying. So I could reduce that, hit slice again, and we're back to where we were. So what you can also do is go into your layers and perimeters, bump that up 1, and just kind of jump back and forth until you get what you want. So we'll take that, reduce that 1, see what that looks like. There we go. So we've got that infill covered up with a perimeter. That looks nice. The next thing to do would be to do some ironing on the top surface. So we're going to add some ironing. All top surfaces. I'm not going to mess with any of that, but we will slice that. And there you go. Doesn't that look so sick? That looks awesome. All right. So we are going to drop in our frame next. So I'm going to go back over here. We're going to go in there. Rear fastener plate version 5. And I made some changes to this. Not going to lie. I'm going to move this guy over here. Click that. Get that nice and organized. And you can see I've got that step set up in there. I did that. These little steps kind of fit inside the opening of the grate and kind of lock it in place. But even if you're moving stuff around using the arrange, it's not going to alter the position of the modifier. It's kind of locked in where it needs to be. So I'll hit slice again. And now we've got ironing over here. And if you want that, that's fine. You're not going to be able to see it. It's just going to add more print time. See, we're at 5 hours and 24 minutes. So what we can do now is add a slab. So go back over here, right click, we're going to go to add modifier, add a slab. We don't want it touching there, so we're going to scale that, draw that in a little bit. All right. And we'll drag this in, make it look nice. And we'll extend that up. We'll say, click that, add setting, ironing. I'm going to do enable ironing and okay, and it's already enabled because of the previous drawing, so we're going to disable that, slice it, and there you go. Dropped almost, what, half hour or so, 45 minutes off of the print time just by doing that. So you still have your ironing here, but you don't have it there where you don't need it. You know, you got plenty of material there. You want a ton of perimeters there because you could be drilling, and you're also adding those threaded inserts. So you want to make sure you have a bunch of solid material in these areas right here. That's pretty much it. And this thing's ready to print. So we're going to export it to our drive and hit save.
So after only about a couple hours, the print is done. And I think it turned out pretty good, all things considered. I love the look of the exposed infill, got the Degreeless Engineering logo, and I even finished it off with a little bit of ironing on the topmost layer. I printed it using Polymaker Polylite PETG, which is about $22 on Amazon for a 1 kilogram roll. And I printed it with my Sunlu S8 large format printer that I bought for $170 shipped. I say that because 3D printing doesn't have to be an expensive hobby, and a 3D printer doesn't have to be an expensive tool. Now, it's not the greatest printer in the world, but it does print really well. It can be a little noisy, but if you're not worried about that, it's a great way to get into the game of 3D printing. A few things we have left to do be obviously removing this old material, but how are we going to attach it? In comes the back plate. A few things to note about it. Lines up perfectly with the existing part, and the overall dimensions on the outside are pretty similar. The difference being it's got these raised portions. And what those will do once we remove this material from here is it'll prevent this grate from sliding around. Because even when tight, vibrations, and those sorts of things could cause it to shift up and eventually get misaligned. But before we attach everything together and finish this back plate, I want to remove this old grate material. But what I'm going to use, try to use, is this DeWalt oscillating tool. It's got a fine tooth blade on it, and I feel like as long as I'm careful, go nice and slow, we won't melt the hell out of the plastic, and we won't break it any further. So let's get started on that. So here's what we got. All the older material has been removed, and I just took a simple file after cutting the bulk of it out and just smoothed out those rough edges. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, that grate is going to cover up most of it. We'll just see how everything fits. Not too bad. Probably file a little bit more, but this kind of gives you a better idea of why I had that little step. You can see it sits nice and flush with that edge. Same thing up there. And with the corners as well. overall, I'm really happy with the way this turned out. So now what I'm going to do is take the back plate, get the soldering iron out, get it hot, and put some threaded inserts in the plastic. So all in all, I'm happy with the way the part turned out, but I'm more interested in knowing what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below. If you want to download this file and print it on your printer at home, I'll be dropping a link in the description below to printables.com, username Degreeless Engineering. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate any and all support I can get. This is a brand new channel, but I look forward to posting many more videos just like this one, hoping to help someone out there like YouTube has helped me so much. So thank you so much for watching. Again, this is Degreeless Engineering, a channel where we engineer using experience. Oh, if I stand up straight, look how long my neck is. I've got such a nice neck. Get to it. Airplanes, dude. Swear to God. Best part about living in Charlotte is there's no escape from the airplanes.